Let's talk about how to pass the JP Morgan video interview for 2024. What's up guys, it's Mike from Job Ready English. Today we're going to be talking about one of the largest banks in the world, JP Morgan Chase, and how you can pass their first round video interview. In this case, we're talking about their Hirevue interview, which is really common in the United States, in the UK, and also in Europe as a first round screener for most entry level positions. So we're going to quickly do an overview about JP Morgan, talk about the format of the Hirevue interview, and we're going to run through some questions that you can expect and some interesting things that I've only really come across with JP Morgan's video interview style that I haven't seen anywhere else. Stick around until the end of the video to find out what that is. JP Morgan is an absolute unit of an investment bank. They employ over 250,000 people. They manage almost $4 trillion worth of assets. They operate in over 100 global markets, and they have over 200 years of history, going all the way back to John Pierpont Morgan's dad. And JP Morgan have underwritten some of the biggest loans in history for World War I, for World War II, and also for building the US railroads. And I've dropped a couple of links down in the description below because it's well worth a read going through their history and through the story of really what makes JP Morgan one of the cornerstone institutions in terms of banking and finance globally today. So what can you expect from the Hirevue video interview? Well, you can expect 3 to 5 questions. So what can you expect from the Hirevue video interview? So for those of you who haven't come across a Hirevue video interview and you're like, Hirevue, what am I going to like hire a view from a balcony? What does that even mean? So Hirevue is what's known as a one-way video interview, also known as an asynchronous video interview. I don't really know what that means, but basically you're just sitting in front of a camera like this. They will show the questions on the screen and then you'll have to speak into the camera to give your answers. Most people get a little bit weirded out by this because they don't like seeing themselves on camera anyway, and also they're trying to answer an interview while sitting at home in their pajamas. But don't do that for your video interview. Definitely dress smart, where you can do like smart at the top and pajamas in the bottom. So Hirevue are one of the leading deliverers of the software for one-way video interview, and they have been for the last 10 plus years. And the way that this is going to work is you're going to get 3 to 5 questions. You're going to be given 2 minutes to answer and 2 minutes to think. So the thinking time is where the timer isn't going and you get to think about your answer. Though if you're clever, you would have some notes, some cue cards, something that you can refer to. Maybe even cleverer, you have a second screen, an iPad, something else that you can refer to where you've got your summary of your notes, your star stories, which you would have if you buy the JP Morgan Chase Pass the Video Interview Pack 2024, which is down in the description below, plug over, and then you would deliver your answer while the timer is going down. Now, a really important thing for one-way video interviews that I get asked all the time, people are like, well, do I have to speak for the whole 2 minutes? What if I speak for 84 seconds? And I'm just like, well, I'm having a good day, you know, I'm feeling good in myself, I've stopped drinking milk, because you're just thinking about burning up all that time. Now, the truth is, just stop. Hirevue, as part of its algorithm, though a lot of the 10,000 plus data points are secret, but it's not that much of a secret because other people have spoken about it in terms of their software. They just cut out the dead space. They will cut out the silences in between, and also they will do what's called voice to text analysis, where they're going through the words that you're saying and then matching it up for the keywords to the job description. So if you've spoken for 84 seconds and your answer was absolutely amazing, just stop talking. You don't need to talk for the full 2 minutes. So what's actually going to happen in the Hirevue interview? Well, we've been through memories from candidates who have accepted job offers from JP Morgan across the world over the past 6 months. And a lot of them talked about having 3 to 5 interview questions, depending on the role, being given 2 minutes to answer those questions, and those questions being strongly based around motivation and competency. Now, what do we mean by this? Motivation is basically what I like to call the 3 whys. Why do you want to do this job? Why do you want to work for this company? And why you? And candidates over and over again said it's really, really important. Even if you have multiple interviews, they're going to ask you, why do you want to work for JP Morgan? Why do you want to do this job? So you want to make sure that you're prepared for these questions, and we're going to cover them in a list of questions that we came across and repeated themselves. So we feel it's a good idea to dive in and see what that's all about. Competency questions is basically about a competency or a skill, i.e. they're saying, tell me about a time when you worked in a team, because they're testing for a skill, which is teamwork. I don't know why I did that. There's no one else there and I just felt like it. Anyway, so teamwork, working together, and then they're going to be looking for key ideas and concepts that are related to good teamwork in your answer. When you're thinking about answering competency questions, you want to use what's known as the STAR format, which is situation, task, action, result. Now the situation is, where were you? The task is, what were you doing? The action is, what did you do specifically to demonstrate the skill? And the result was, how was this successful? Now, something to think about with this is that the majority of your answer should be based around the action. And I break down many different examples in the course down in the link in the description below, but you want to think about 4 or 5 sentences or words that really demonstrate that you understand the skill. So for example, for teamwork, it would be good communication, listening to others, helping out, doing your part of the job, going above and beyond, leadership skills, and so on and so forth. And that's going to help the interview algorithm to see that you really understand what good teamwork is and you have applied that into a real situation. Now you might be asking yourself, but what examples should I use? When you're picking out examples for STAR-based questions, you really want to think about the most relevant examples first. And if you're applying for the job, the most relevant example is something from work. It doesn't matter what it is. A lot of times whenever I've spoken to graduate students and they'll say to me, yeah, but you know, I worked in a pizza restaurant, I was a delivery driver, I worked front of house at McDonald's, and I'm like, that's excellent. And these are transferable skills that you can use to demonstrate that you have applied this in a real world scenario in a professional environment. Now, if you don't have any work experience, don't worry about it. What about stuff that you did outside of school? Maybe you were part of a sports team, a club, a society, maybe you did some volunteering, but this is something aside from stuff that you have to do, i.e. you have to go to school, right? And also this is a way of differentiating yourself from your competition, because maybe your competitors to the left and the right of you, they can only choose examples from school. And if all you have is your academics, then of course choose something from there where you worked as part of a team for a project. But if you're watching this right now and you're a university student, you're thinking about going to university, or you're just doing your research because you're that kind of guy, I highly recommend that you go and join a club, join a society, go and have some more experiences outside of just study, going home, Netflix and TikTok. Not that I'm saying that's what you do, but seriously, like, what do you do? I mean, do you do other stuff? Come on, guy. Right? Because that's really going to help you when you're trying to think of examples that you can use for answering competency-based questions. So here's the 7 most common questions we came across when we were looking at the interview memories for candidates who had successfully gotten an offer from JP Morgan. Question number 1, why did you choose to apply for this role at JP Morgan? Now this is very much the same as being asked why this role or why do you want to do this job. When you're thinking about answering this question, very often what I see people do is they'll just talk about themselves, and they'll be very generic and very vague and say, well, it's a great opportunity for me. This would be fantastic to work with a really talented team and gain exposure to great clients, get good experience. But really what's happening is when a person delivers that answer, though it's true, is very self-involved. It's very much about what I can get from you rather than me demonstrating to you that I really understand what I'm going to do. Something that I always suggest that you do is make sure that you download or print a copy of the job description. It's going to give you all the information that you need about the job. Now, if the job description is vague, which many of them are, particularly for larger companies, when they tend to be a little bit salesy and not really explain about what you're doing, then just make sure that you look up the title of the job itself into Google and find somewhere that has a good job description, maybe from a rival company or something in a different industry. Because what you're going to do first of all is explain to the interviewer what you're going to do in this job. So explain, what would you do as a financial analyst? What would you do working in operations? What would you do working in sales and trading or mergers and acquisitions? And just reel off 4, 5 or 6 different things that you'd be expected to do, the duties that you would have. After this, which is the second part of the answer, you can really talk about yourself a little bit more. So choose 2 or 3 skills that you feel are really important for this job. Is it teamwork, leadership, financial analysis skills, Excel, macroeconomics? Whatever it may be, choose that skill and just give a 1-sentence response in terms of why you're good at this skill. I've got great financial analysis skills, which I know are really important for this role. I've got great financial analysis skills in terms of Excel, because for the past 3 years, I've been a member of our university's asset management society, where I carried out a DCF analysis for over 40 different companies. Now, as you can see, this is a short sentence. It's clear and compelling in terms of me providing evidence for that skill. Something that I don't suggest that you do is just reel off a long list of skills, which I see people do, because it's not really believable. You know, if somebody says that they're really good at doing everything, that you're like, I don't think that you are. So choose 2 or 3 things that you think is important and then zero in on those skills with proof. Question number 2, what are the core principles of JP Morgan and how do you align with them? So while I was doing my research for JP Morgan for this video, I actually printed off the text for their core values, which is a couple of pages long. And I have to say, of any company that I've looked at, is really incredibly detailed and provides a lot of good ammunition for you to use in your interview. So their first core value is exceptional client service. And you'll see here, for example, that they really have picked out all of the stuff that they feel would demonstrate good client service, which you can use, which is operating in the customer's best interest, being able to offer product, having an amount of empathy and seeing things through the customer's eyes. Number 2, operational excellence, monitoring, tracking, reporting, striving for excellence, compare yourself with the best, stay consistent, anticipate problems. Core value number 3, a commitment to integrity, fairness and responsibility, not compromising our integrity, facing facts, having fortitude. And finally, core value number 4, a great team and winning culture. Now we'll pop a link of those down in the description below, but I have to say, again, there's a lot of great material there that you can use in your answers, and you can demonstrate by saying, well, these are JP Morgan's 4 core values. The one that really resonates for me is this, and then use a star story to demonstrate where you have put that core value into action through something that you did. Question number 3, tell me about an industry that you have been following. Something that I noticed with JP Morgan's video interview this year, and of course we've been covering JP Morgan now since 2021, so we've seen things change quite a bit over these years, is this real emphasis on market knowledge, on industry expertise, and really trying to screen out people who know nothing about banking and finance or general industries and sectors, but just want to get paid and just want to get a good job. So more and more so this year, and I expect to see the same thing with other investment banks, they want you to really demonstrate some form of industry knowledge. Now, it can be any industry, it doesn't really matter. It could be something that you personally enjoy, like gaming or technology or esports, doesn't matter what it is. But can you demonstrate some actual insider knowledge about that, and also what that means in terms of investment opportunities, what that means in terms of M&A or some sort of investment opportunity for a client who you could be providing advice to. And it's really simple to do this. Just find an industry report and sign up for a weekly newsletter. We're not talking about super in-depth knowledge, particularly for a graduate, an intern, or for a spring week, but just having some knowledge is going to put you ahead of the rest of the competition. Question number 4, why JP Morgan? Now, of course, the classic question, we always want to think about 5 fast facts. I've already given you those earlier on when I was talking about JP Morgan, who they are and what they do. And that was really just a very quick off the cuff response that you could give in 30 seconds. Make sure that you find facts which are unique. They shouldn't be generic. They shouldn't be vague, you know, big, long history, well respected, world leading, all of those types of things. I've heard those answers so many times, and it really just demonstrates laziness. Any company that you're interviewing for, you should always do your research about that company. 10, 15 minutes to know a little bit about them and a little bit about their customers. If you're struggling to find some facts, then check out our Pass the Interview pack, where we already generated over 100 facts for you. Question number 5, what company would you invest in and why? I love this question. It was a question that I used to pose a lot when I was doing coaching for people who wanted to work in the front office of investment banks, particularly in sales and trading, because I found it utterly ridiculous that somebody could want to be paid to buy and sell, stocks and shares and bonds and all these types of things on a daily basis, and yet not know what company that they wanted to invest in, therefore demonstrating that they really have no particular experience or interest in that operation that they would need to go through on a daily basis. Doesn't matter about the company. It doesn't really matter about, why you think that they're a good investment. What matters is that you're starting to show some sort of interest. And again, you could sign up for a weekly bulletin from Bloomberg or CNBC News or Reuters, or even just make sure you keep up to date with basic business news through BBC Business. But make sure that you're doing something, because I feel that particularly this year, if you don't demonstrate any level of more in-depth commercial knowledge, you're not going to make it through the interview. Question number 6, why you? Now, this is very much tell me about yourself. If you want an in-depth explanation of how to answer this question, make sure you click the link up above, which has a free 6-step format for you to follow, and also a free worksheet that you can download. But having a really good personal introduction is definitely somewhere you want to start. If you've never done an interview, if you're struggling with interviews, if you just want to think, what's something that I can do right now to start getting better at it, you can download our personal introduction worksheet, which is also in the link down in the description below. It's completely free, and you can write out the 6 steps, which are: who are you and what are you doing now? What have you done in the past? What do you want to do in the future? Work experience, extracurricular skills, extracurricular activities, and finally skills and interest, and then end with a bang. This is something that you can do your script, refine your script, shorten it down to bullet points, and then practice on a daily basis. Once you've practiced that 7 to 10 times, you'll really be able to nail that personal introduction, deliver a really crisp sales pitch about yourself and who you really are. And the delivery of this is really important, and definitely is going to put you into good stead when you have a final interview or a face-to-face interview. And the same goes for professionals who actually I find struggle with this even more, because they're trying to condense a lot of years of experience into just sort of 2 minutes, which can be quite challenging. So therefore requires you to write, rewrite, edit, refine, practice and practice again. Question number 7, tell me about a time when you had to analyze data or information from multiple sources and how you prioritize this. Now, if you're a grad student, a lot of you are going to be thinking about your dissertation. So you're going to be thinking, well, I had to look at lots of different data sources. How did I prioritize them? What is my kind of bar of thinking? What knowledge is more applicable, less applicable, more reliable or less reliable, and more effective or less effective in terms of the result that I need to lay out? Something that's important for what is a sort of slightly more complex competency question is treat this like you are teaching somebody. And what I mean by that is, very often whenever I hear people answer this question, they'll kind of lose a lot of the detail. So we won't really be able to create a picture of what it is that they're trying to say. So I'll say something like, well, I had to do a dissertation for risk management and I had to read lots of books and go through lots of reports. So I prioritized it in terms of this and that, and then I finished my dissertation and I got a good grade. But there's lots of things that are missing. What is it about? Where is the data from? How did you choose what was most important? And a good way of looking at this, which really helps people, is just think about teaching somebody else to do the same thing. And this allows people to really kind of take a step back and think, well, what did I do next? Almost like you're putting a recipe together in the kitchen and then you're having to teach a junior chef. You very much would go through that step by step. So finally, I just want to end up with something that I found really interesting about JP Morgan that I don't really see anywhere else. And that's the fact that you actually get to redo your answers twice. And there is no deadline for the video interview. However, There is a deadline which I always set to people who work with me one-to-one, who ask me these questions via email, and they say, well, I've got no deadline, so I can just take as long as I like. I always say 5 days. The thing that you've got to think about with a deadline is all the time that you're waiting to deliver your answer, other people are submitting their interviews and there are only a set number of places available. And that's decreasing on pretty much a daily basis. So you don't want to spend loads of time waiting to deliver your video interview. I would say give yourself 5 to 7 days max, and then make sure that you put that in. And the good thing about being able to redo your answers is that once you get the questions, if you have notes, star stories, something that you can refer to, which is easy, I don't suggest a giant document with 40 or 50 pages of sample answers. It's really not worthwhile having something like that, in my experience, is that if you get it wrong, you can quickly refer to your notes, preferably digitally, because it's quite a thing to go through it all on paper, and then come back to it and deliver a much better answer second time. Guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have, please consider dropping us a like. That really helps more people see the video. Let me know down in the comments below when your interview is, if this has helped you, did you get a job, or what company would you like us to cover next? Bye.
No.